Welcome to Ride the Wave, hosted by me, Jeff Fisher, and co-hosted by Mark Robinson, in partnership with the Ride the Wave Foundation. Visit us at ridethewave.org, where we're dedicated to empowering their lives through free resources in servant leadership, mental health wellness, and how to find a purpose. At Ride the Wave, we believe in the power of every story, talent, and voice. Our commitment is clear: to bridge divides, unite communities, and build an all-inclusive, modern campus for those experiencing homelessness. So let's dive in and ride the wave of positive change together. Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us on Ride the Wave. Today we have Dr. Bowe is back. We're very excited to have her back. If you don't know Dr. Bowe, check out episode 11 and watch that. We also, Mark and myself, we partnered with Be the Change New Jersey, which is her foundation, and it was amazing. Mark ended up painting a mural. What's up, Mark?
Going on, Jeff?
Not much.
Good morning, everyone.
Which went very well, and Dr. Bowe and her team handed out backpacks. So it was a great day. We met Sky that day, who was a guest. Amazing. So Dr. Bowe, her undergraduate degrees are in nursing, community health. She has a master's in health administration, a PhD in community health policy. She's a professor of public health at Keene University. She has an amazing death class where she teaches mental health and death to kids. And also Karen. Thank you for joining us, Karen.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So Karen Haas is somebody that I had the pleasure of speaking with. She's friends of Dr. Bowe, and she has an amazing story, has some struggles in her life, but it's really inspiring where she is today. So we're very happy that she could be here with Dr. Bowe and us today to really share her story overall, which is amazing. And she's right now getting a master's in for nutrition and Dr. Bowe's teacher's assistant as well. So thank you both for being here. Really appreciate Dr. Bowe. Great to see you. And Karen, thank you.
Great to be here, Jeff.
Absolutely. So, to take it down a little bit, today we have a really serious topic. Mark and I were having a conversation. We did some research and we want to make sure we do it right because it is about suicide. And there's so much of it happening and so many attempts. It's such a big problem in the country, in the world, loneliness, depression. So we're going to sit here and have a chat really about that and just uncover the hood a little bit of suicide. So again, thank you both for being here and discussing this type of topic.
Mm-hmm.
Really appreciate it. So I want to start off with Dr. Bowe. Anything that you want to say about the topic?
Yeah, I really want to first educate all of us about the seriousness of this issue because depression happens to almost everyone, right? There's two types of depression. Exogenous depression happens when an external loss or an event occurs, something bad happens to us, we lose someone we love, we get fired at work, we're under a lot of stress. Exogenous depression happens to almost everyone, and then there's endogenous depression, which is biochemical in nature. It's no one's fault. Nothing bad has happened. It's a pre-genetic condition, and some people just carry the gene for depression. Usually that manifests like after 30, where exogenous depression could happen at any age. I've seen 4-year-olds who are depressed because of their life circumstance and what their parents might be going through. So depression accounts for about 75% of all mood disorders. And of course, if you have depression, you're more at risk for suicide, especially if it's not caught, right? Especially if there's no treatment. So with exogenous depression, which happens when you have an external loss or an event, there's no pill for that. When we're not feeling well, we go to a doctor and we expect a prescription of some kind to make us feel better. But unfortunately, when bad things happen, there's no pill for things like grief. We can't medicate for that. Some people will self-medicate for depression when bad things happen. And that can be a slippery slope to all kinds of problems, like overdose, for instance, right? For endogenous depression or biochemical depression, we do have good medication on the market for that. They're called selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. Our brain makes serotonin all day. Our brain absorbs it all day. And these medications just leave more of the serotonin in our brain. So we're not absorbing too much and our brain isn't making too little. And that's what helps us when we're taking those medications. But again, that's only for the genetic kind of depression. So there's all of that to consider. There's unipolar and bipolar. Unipolar means you only have depression symptoms. Bipolar means you might have mood swings. Bipolar is always endogenous or genetic in nature. We usually see it running through families. Unipolar happens to everyone. And Jeff, Mark, Karen, we're seeing it younger and younger and younger as things have gotten more stressful. Right before the show, Jeff mentioned something about bullying. You know, it used to be you had a bully at school maybe, but when you got home, there was some relief from that. But now with social media, right, and the internet, all of that follows you right home. And now it's right in your bedroom if you're on your computer. There's no way to get away from it.
And anonymous, too.
Anonymous a lot of times.
That part.
You know, and then we don't want to talk about this stuff. You know, we've made great strides, I think. We have online help now. We have where you can text to a therapist. That's something new. And so that's good. But we spend so much time behind screens. We spend so much time disengaged, really, from each other. And honestly, it's that interaction with each other that really helps when you have depression. Now, the other thing I really just want to say is that you don't know what someone's story is. It's astounding. Like in my death class, we share a lot of information about each other. And in fact, a book was written about this class called The Death Class, A True Story About Life. So many people and their story after story. And you wouldn't know just sitting next to someone what their story is. And so therefore, I just want to say we need to be gentle with each other. And we need to respect that the person next to you may be going through something extraordinary. Now, we also have a great thing called 988. 988 has been life-changing for a lot of people. You know, that has really saved lives. Because
So 988, they could dial 988 too.
Dial 988, and it's a hotline number.
Right. If you're feeling at all, even a little bit like you might take your life, immediately don't hesitate. Dial that number. If you're embarrassed or you don't want to
And it's
reach
anonymous,
out to anybody
too.
else.
It's anonymous, and you can text it.
Mm-hmm.
Some of us just don't want to talk to anybody anymore, right? We just want to text. But you
That's
can
good.
text or call 988, and there will be someone who will respond to you, which is super important. It's that feeling alone. It's like feeling trapped. There's no way out. There's feeling that I'd be better off dead than alive. And the truth is, we need you alive. We need every person contributing to the fabric of our community because, you know, we are in a state in the world where we need each other in a pretty bad way. We don't want to lose anyone. I don't know if this is a good segue to Karen.
Yeah. You know, one, too, I just wanted to ask you before, Karen, do you know how much environment percentage-wise matters to somebody naturally who may have bipolar? I was diagnosed with bipolar. I take medication every day. I have manic and then I will pretty hard come downs. So for me, it's been something that I've been managing and also through self-care, through working out, things like that to keep on track. So it's something I maintain. It's not, if I didn't take medication and if I wasn't doing anything like that, that's why I think it's so important for people to have access to that.
Yeah.
You know?
And you know what else, Jeff? I'm so glad you brought that up. I didn't know that about you.
Yeah.
So here's another example of you don't know when
Right.
you're sitting next to someone what they've been going through, right? There's so many things we can do to mitigate any sort of issues that we have. If you're diabetic, you're not going to eat chocolate cake every day. And we don't we don't we don't look at diabetics like in a negative way, but if you have a mental health issue, we tend to look at people in a different way, right? We don't criminalize people who have high blood pressure. We don't look at them in a different way. But if someone says they're on medication, we really need to change how we treat those people. It's the same as if you had diabetes or hypertension.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you might need medication to manage that issue. But self-care, getting enough sleep. But of course, sleep goes out the window when you're depressed. We call it sleep disturbance. And people either can't fall asleep or they can't stay asleep or they early waken. And that's hard. I mean, I've had that before. People either eat too much or they eat too little. But if you can maintain a good balanced nutrition, and Karen did a whole lecture in my mental health class about the intersection of nutrition and mental health. If you can have people around you that you can talk to, self-care, like you don't feel like it, but you get in the shower every day, right? You get out of bed every day and you go for a walk. You sit in the sun. Some sunshine will help with the vitamin D as well. You know, and not sit and scroll all day. People with depression tend to spend a lot of time on their phone because we get these little hits of dopamine as we're scrolling.
Yeah.
And if we put up a post and someone likes it, that's an extra hit of dopamine. So people get addicted to these little hits and they start living in their phone and they don't really live in the world.
Yeah, I think God created us for relationships. And if I was the devil and I wanted to split people apart, I would stop that. And that human connection, the people, it was Mark Hansen, VP of sales. He said that you could look something up online, but you're not going to get emotional support online. And that's something that lacks. And environmentally, I think it's an epidemic, loneliness, and also neglect. Parents not paying attention to their kids on the phone, things like that. Kids then seeing that and mirroring that. Karen, when I talk to you, first, your spirit is amazing. Your energy just through the virtual was amazing. And the things that you've been through and who you are now is inspiring to me.
I don't think I would be who I mean, did I ever want to go through what I went through? No, but looking back on it, I don't think I would be who I am or where I am or who I'm with if I didn't go through that.
So that's what kind of made you who you are. It molded you into...
To a point, I guess. I mean, are there regrets? Are there things that I would change? Yes and no. But then, of course, doing that would have changed it all in the end. So
for the audience, is there maybe something they could relate to or your personal struggles that you could share?
Several. I mean, some out of my, I guess, control, being that I had meningitis when I was 7 months old, which left scar tissue on my left temporal lobe, which caused seizures. And the type 1 diabetes that I have is been proven that it's related to that issue and everything. So like all of my medical issues today are from when I was 7 months old and everything. And then I guess growing up, because I'm the only one of my 2 siblings that had all the issues, like my parents. And I get why they were, because they cared and everything. But I think that I was probably in the spotlight a little bit more than my siblings because of this, that made me feel that I needed to perform more, or my perfectionism had come in because of that, like wanting to please. My people pleaser is a big flaw that I've been really working on, but it's just the fact of like making others happy made me happy and overlook like myself happiness in general or whatever. But of course, I'm only 12 years old on my first suicide attempt. So that it was definitely a fail, as you can tell. I didn't, it was my first attempt at injecting too much insulin into myself because I didn't have an insulin pump at the time. I had pens, so I could like manually give myself how much insulin I wanted to, because it's like being 12 years old, getting into I guess the social light of like trying to find like a teenage girl, of like stress of that, whatever. I know that people would probably internally, I would be judged. I would have thought of being different than anything because like how we were back in the late 90s, early 2000s and whatnot, because of so many stereotypes that we've tried to eradicate now. But I know that they were there when growing up. So it's like trying to be like everybody else and not accepting myself. I was admitted, or I was in the ER for that because my blood sugar had dropped. They revived me. And then my second attempt with my insulin, my blood sugar actually went down to like 14. So
what were you going through to get to that point inside? What were your feelings like? What was your environment?
Thinking back on it, more or less trying to be a person that I'm not and knowing that I probably wouldn't be there or whatever.
Do you feel like you were putting the little false persona up a little bit?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, what I portrayed to people is definitely not what I was at least feeling inside.
Okay.
So, because like be out, socialize, whatever, and then come home and be like all alone in my room, do whatever, want to be alone. I mean, I didn't have a cell phone or there was not as much social media back then, but.
Yeah, that has to be so common right now. That is something that's common. And you made that point of your parents maybe giving you more attention, even if it was something that's negative. The other kid in the family could feel neglect, even if you're focused on helping somebody in your family that another kid that has those issues too. That's a good point. There's something similar that happened in my family because I needed a lot of attention. I had so many things pop up. And, I'm sure it left in a sense my brother out inadvertently without it being intentional. So yeah, it's a good point.
Mm-hmm. Well, and Karen's also talking about accessibility to something that could kill her. Mm-hmm. She injected herself, you all, at age 12 with insulin. Mm. And no one would think, we should lock that up or keep that away from her. She's diabetic. But that she knew that could kill her. And she glossed over it just now, saying, they revived me. But what that means to me, anyway, as a medical person, is that your heart probably stopped. They had to reverse what you did to yourself in the emergency room to keep you alive. And as a parent, if I had a child with diabetes, it wouldn't even occur to me that they could use insulin against themselves, right? Mm-hmm. But here's the thing, parents out there. We like to think our kids are great all the time. We like to think they're fine all the time. We're rushing from one thing to the next. There's a lot of pressure on us. There's a lot of financial pressure, social pressure, economic, everything you can think of. We really have to sit down with our kids away from the phone and really find out how they're doing and be involved in listening to those little innuendos when they're telling us about their day. There's something, and I love your parents, I've met your parents, but there's something they missed. And we're lucky that you lived through that. Mm-hmm. We're lucky, all of us, because I can't imagine a world without Karen in it. She does so much good. But you also heard her say that was her first suicide attempt. Mm-hmm.
Right.
It didn't stop there, you all. Yeah. It continued.
I mean, like I was saying, when I was in the hospital, but I wasn't admitted to any psych because I got screened. I guess that since I had been speaking to somebody outside of that event or anything like that, I kind of knew what they wanted to hear. So it's being a teenager or preteen, whatever, and the wanting to please people. I guess it's just I'm going to tell them what they want to hear so that this can just maybe not blow over, might not be the right thing, but at least in my head it was what I wanted to do, that it's just get past it. It happened, whatever, don't have to focus on it. So I'm going to please them so we can just completely forget about it and move on. probably a big mistake on my part. I mean, I had been speaking with somebody, whether in a group setting or one-on-one, most of my life, on and off, but I don't think I've really found somebody that has really helped me until maybe a couple of years ago. So it's like, because I still speak with a person like that. Maybe not on a regular basis, but if like something comes up, I can always make an appointment and speak with them. Like I need to get this off my chest. So
yeah, and I think to your point, Dr. Bowe, everybody's in their own worlds nowadays and focused on what we have going on, and seeing those signs in other people are huge because it's very transactional sometimes too, our world, and I think that more attention when somebody does express suicidal thoughts, or even if somebody does send something that's a text or really looks scary or like they would, just call the police. The police have a whole protocol of what they do when they show up. They have to do certain things to do it because God forbid if you don't, could you imagine if that person takes their life? And I think that the problem is we're real loose a lot of the times. Nobody wants to step on anybody else's shoes or rock the boat. We need to rock the boat. Love tough is what you need to do. And that's something that we need to stand up for each other, and we need to not just brush it off all the time, because that's the problem. And it's increasing because good people aren't doing anything about it. So I think that, I'm surprised that, and I'm sure your parents are good people. They didn't mean it.
Mhm.
But the fact that happened so many times and you were able to conceal that and nobody was able to draw that out. And also, with this show, speaking truth and speaking myself out, you could speak things into the world. If you're in a position like that, please just admit it, put it out there, express yourself. If somebody doesn't respond well, or your parents, go to a teacher, go somewhere else, but that confession will lead to it being out there, which does release a certain thing, I think, right?
Yeah. And, in New Jersey, at least, we're lucky to have psychiatric assessment centers everywhere. In my neck of the woods, I live near New Brunswick, our nearest assessment center is in Piscataway at Rutgers Behavioral Health. So when in doubt, you can call an assessment center and ask them for advice. A lot of these places have mobile crisis units. So if you're not feeling the police, because some people are just not feeling that, they don't want it to get out of control, you could call an assessment center, and if it sounds serious, they can send someone out to you to do a mobile assessment. Now, we're in a place at this point where there aren't enough psychiatric beds. So a lot of this gets triaged. To get hospitalized these days, it's usually a serious attempt that will get you in the hospital. But there's something called intensive outpatient programs where you might get to sleep at home, but you might spend the day in an intensive outpatient program where you're getting the help that you need. And I think to be assessed is just so important because Karen and I have known each other a while now. I was the officiant for her wedding. I know her wife really well because her wife was one of my students. But all the time that I knew Karen, I didn't know this story. Sit next to her in a room, have breakfast with her and her wife, I had no idea. And I feel like that happens so often, that we miss some of the things that people are laying down.
Yeah.
And you're so right, Jeff. We've been carefully taught to mind our own business and not, step on toes and not ask people. When I ask you how you doing, right, most of the time people will say fine. What does that mean? Like, how are you really doing? Talk to me for a few minutes. Doesn't take much. Just to hear someone's story for a little while makes a huge difference. It's like releasing the gas out of a bottle of seltzer, right? You undo the lid a little, and then it's not going to explode later. And it's so important that we know how each other is doing.
Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Oh, very much. I mean, talking about it now has definitely made a difference in everything. Holding that, I guess I have to say it's been a little while since my last attempt, but even during that time, probably sharing it would have made a difference, or somebody asking or whatnot, because it's like that feeling of being alone, or that like I can't do this anymore or anything like that. It's hard.
What do you think prevents you from reaching out? Is it so debilitating, so low, your thoughts take over so much that they're just telling you that's the only way out to relieve pain? Or is it do you feel like you're a burden on other people? Is there a specific?
Personally, I always felt that I was probably the burden, because it's like and they're not flaws, I guess, but that was always my adjective for all of my issues, whether medical or not or anything like that, because no one's perfect, but it's just that I wanted to be, or better than I was, that it's like I didn't want to bother anybody with my problems. I can do it. Like, let me do this all on my own, because everybody, maybe they're not as bad as my problems, but everybody has issues, kind of thing. So it's like, why do I want to burden somebody else, even if they're trying to help with my problems?
You know what I noticed? That most people want to help, the majority of people. So there's a feeling, I don't know, you guys get, I'm sure, I mean, Dr. Bowe, come on, you pray with your feet. That's what you said, which was an amazing comment. I love that about you. When you're serving other people, there's such a blessing to it. So in a way, by not saying anything, you are denying somebody else the feeling of them feeling like they are important, because that's what it's all about. You want to contribute. We want to do things to help other people. So even if I've been doing this with my network, things like that, calling and just asking somebody's opinion on something. Hey, I'm doing this thing. I was wondering what your thoughts are on that, or could you help me with something? And way more than looking anything up online, any AI, anything like that, which I utilize, it's 100% better, because you're going to somebody who has the experience. That person's journey in life is all connected there. And there's just something about the personal connection that's being lost right now, which is why this increase of suicide's happening to begin with.
Suicides, homicides, accidents, overdoses. I think they're all related. Homicide is suicide turned outward. Suicide sometimes is homicide turned inward.
Wow.
We know that it comes from the same center in the brain. And so when we see a school shooting, for instance, and I don't want to trigger anyone, but we've missed that perhaps someone's suicidal. And instead of hurting themselves, they're going to take a whole lot of people down too, and then hurt themselves. Accidents, a lot of them are suicide attempts. Road rage, hurting someone else, hurting ourselves. Overdoses, a lot of those overdoses, you all, are suicides. Only 1/3 of all death certificates in the United States are accurate. And if you overdose and end up in the hospital and die, a doctor might put accidental death rather than suicide if there isn't compelling evidence like a note. But if you talk to the family, they'll tell you, oh yeah, they were really despondent. So some people start self-medicating rather than using appropriate medications, the ones that really will help, for things like depression. Now, I'm going to tell on Karen for a minute, and I hope you won't be mad at me. She said that there's been some time since her last suicide attempt. And as a professional, I would say that isn't a lot of time since your last suicide attempt. And in fact, I feel like it was really recent.
Just over a year ago?
Yeah.
That's
recent. Very recent. And I was with her during that time. I mean, we hang out. I didn't know. And I would have been the person to talk to. But there's something that holds people back from that. So a year ago was yesterday, right? I mean, that's very recent.
I think it's because there's something special in you, Karen. I really do. I think the people that are most special, the devil kind of knows that and goes in to really disrupt that person, because you're meant for something that's bigger. And that day we did the virtual, I could sort of tell there was something to you. And I think that you're here for a reason. And I really hope that you never do it again. And that I'm not a professional. Mark is not. Ride the Wave is here for Dr. Bowe organization. You guys, if you ever needed anything, you could always, reach out to us.
Mm-hmm.
We could point you in the right direction. But yeah, I mean, it's just that not expressing it has got to be so hard.
I mean, it's more or
Yeah.
less that time was really just because I got married last August of 23 and everything, and it was probably like March or April of last year of my attempt, and it was like being in school and planning the wedding and this and that, and I know plenty other minor factors that I probably can't list, but like everything just like I guess snowballed, and it's just one of those feelings of like, yes, I did try talking it out, but it's more or less like, what was the point of like going on and everything? So I did try hanging myself at that point. My cousin had found me because I was living with him at the time and everything. So only reason why that one failed was because he promised that he wasn't going to tell anybody, and he's kept his word since.
So it's inadvertently not a cry for help. It really, you were trying to do it.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. You decided it was final and you wanted to.
I wasn't staging it. I took advantage of being home alone at the time, and I didn't know that he was getting off work early. It just happened that he had come in and found me. Yeah. So.
And we got to say this right to everyone. We know what to do with physical pain. We know how to treat physical pain. We don't really know how to treat mental pain as well.
That's a good point.
And this is the same thing as physical pain. People are in pain, and they're just looking for a way to make the pain stop. Just as if you broke your leg and you wanted something to take that would make the pain stop.
I do think, though, Dr. Bowe, there is a little bit of a choice within the person where I would say they need to be held accountable. And for me, it's not the fault of the person, in my opinion, for the disease or their environment, what's happening. But if they're in a position, like if you're blessed to have access to medication or things like that, or you refuse to take care of it, take care of yourself and say no to things like that. And then because of that, it starts to affect people around you, like your kids. You're bringing down the whole environment, because some homes could be like the air is sucked out of the room. That's the energy in these places. And then people aren't talking to each other or putting each other down. It's really not good. It's so toxic. So I think that you have to take responsibility. If you're someone right now, you're a mother or you're a parent, and because of you, your kids are a mess and the whole environment, you have to step up and you have to take responsibility for yourself and take those medications, and also realize you do have a disease, and that's fine. Just like Dr. Bowe said, taking medication for diabetes or your liver, whatever it is. But that's where I get a little like, all right, it is the fault of the person there not taking care of themselves.
Yeah. And we need to learn more about how to do that, I think. Well, and Karen talked about being 12, but I know that she's attempted more than once.
Mm-hmm.
And each time something's happened to keep you alive. And there's something in you that wants to be alive.
I've realized that. And I think also, like, yes, it's what you were saying of the different kinds and everything. All of the reasons of me wanting to hurt myself was because of either an event or somebody's choice or my choice, or like something happened to me to push me that far. Whether it was my just depression in general, or being gang raped, or like stress, things like that. Like it was always some part that I tried to fix myself and then either couldn't take it or anything, because like the emotional pain, no one know, like you were saying, no one really knows how to deal with. But like physical pain, like I have an ouchie and then the pain goes away, that it's like I would inflict physical pain on myself to not have to deal with the emotional pain, because it's more temporary or a quick fix of some sort, even though, yes, suicide is not a quick fix, but just the fact of like not having to even experience the emotional pain with that replacement of like something that I know could go away. So
yeah, and there are levels, and that's pretty extreme.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, there are something like that. I could see how, that could lead to something like that, especially not speaking about it. It's terrible.
You
So
keep
sorry,
it
Karen.
in. You keep it in, and
You're
it
amazing.
festers like a wound, right? And trauma changes our brain. It changes this very primitive part of the brain called the amygdala. And we start reacting to things really differently after trauma. We go from 0 to DEFCON 10. That's when we start with the yelling and the screaming and the short fuse, the low frustration tolerance. Usually we get that because of trauma.
Is that the kind of the fight or flight, that primitive portion of our brain that when we were running from prey and that the signals off the fear signals and things like that, which is I'm sure all out of all out of whack, with technology and things like that.
With everything that's going on in the world, we're just getting bombarded by bad news, bad news, bad news, news, right? The world is on fire. And so it's really changing all of us. But for those of us with a trauma, I just read recently, hypervigilance is a trauma response. And that really hit me hard because I am hypervigilant. My head's on swivel all the time, waiting for the next shoe to drop, And it's like, oh, Norma Bowe, that's a trauma response. And I think some of us deal with trauma better than others. And some of us, we have trauma and we try to off ourselves. We try to leave the world. That's not an acceptable response. There's so much help out there for these things. We have to admit that trauma happened to us,
It's very hard to, though. I mean, it's still back to like, why would I want to burden? It's assumption, and that's the problem. But it's like, I don't know what someone's going to say if I tell them something. And it's
what
like,
have people said?
That they didn't know that about me, or that they would not have ever thought that about me, or that like I could have come to them, or like that. Yeah.
Did anybody run away? Did anybody look at you with 6 eyes? Did anybody look at you and say, I don't want to be your friend anymore? Did anybody say to you, you're not going to be able to do what you want to do in life because of your trauma?
Of these, and I could literally count maybe like 5 or on single hand or whatever of the people before this that knew of like the whole story. No one ever. No.
And I think the reason for that is because if that person themselves didn't go through it, they know somebody closely that has. It's that common, unfortunately. So it's that fear of not bringing it up and talking about it. That's the thing. Because Jacob is a perfect example at Market Street Mission. We recently, by now, this will be released. His will have been published. But Jacob is clean cut guy. He's the director at Market Street Mission in Morristown. And you would never know. Wife, good family, all that. But he has some story and some background. So you can never judge a book by its cover.
Ever.
This show has changed that, changed my whole life, the foundation because of that. Sitting here with Mark, we're very unlikely friendship, but it's amazing people's stories. I really wish, people get off the technology and start connecting to each other.
Me too.
But see, the thing is, Cameron, with your situation, is like you, at certain points, I believe that you wanted to talk to people and reach out to people, but then there's also the thought of the fear of, if I do talk to somebody or I do go to this person, how are they going to react?
Mm-hmm. I mean,
people say, people say that you can come talk to me, da da da. But like you said, there was 5 people that knew and still chose not to engage themselves or be bothered. People could say anything, but
yeah.
I mean, of the small amount of people, some people acted more than others did. That is true. I mean, me, on the other hand, like, I'm that one person that I don't want to bother you with my problems, but you can dump like your whole life story on me. Like, I listen to everything, and I know I make it aware with other people that it's like, no, tell me whatever, because I like, not that I like fixing things and everything. And I know that I'm working on me internally, and it's a long process. It'll probably be a life process, but I rather help fix other people's problems than dwell on mine, because then those feelings come back to me with all of my issues and everything.
But they're getting pushed down. They're getting pushed down so far that you're not bringing them, the light takes care of the darkness. It's stronger, and it's from the start, and it's love. So you need to shine that light on there. And what you're doing right now, Karen, this is it.
Yeah.
This is it. And I know you're going to be great. I can see it.
Least.
Yeah, absolutely.
Boy, Jeff's really dropping wisdom today.
Hey, look,
he's so right, though. What? I'm going to use that later in class.
Yeah, Dr. Bowe. I mean, really, it's because
So
I'm passionate about it, because I feel like it's sad. And I'm somebody that I've had some life experiences with my bipolar, just in life in general. And I'm at a point where anything I pursue, I have a purpose now. And I feel like I'm under God's mission. And there are some techniques, and there are some certain things internally that I feel, and not everybody is the same. Everybody's different. Programs that you could look into, or you can uncover from the inside out, sort of like Coffee Bean, Damon West, John Gordon, and whether it's through workbooks or things like that, journaling, getting to know yourself and uncovering things, even though it's tough and it's hard. A lot of that eventually, I think, comes to fruition, and being honest and open.
Well, and if we're more comfortable fixing others than fixing ourselves, we tend to pick friends that we can fix. We tend to pick partners that we can fix. And it just keeps us from, it keeps us avoiding what we need to fix inside, And then people will wake up and they wonder why they're in a bad relationship, or they've been re-traumatized over and over because of something, because you didn't deal with it or shed light on it to begin with, Can you tell us what happened after age 12?
So, I had been speaking, I moved on, whatever. It was more or less come like high school years where we get these part-time jobs. I know everybody's been there, that first job. One of my first jobs was actually a waitress at one of the diners in town. I grew up in Maplewood. Not saying which one I worked at or anything like that, but it's just, my dad helped me get this job, this, that, and the other. And it was pretty good for the time being a high school student, like either work weekends, whatever, but it was a 24-hour diner. Even during the weekend could work overnight or whatever, of course, signed off with permission, being that I was under 18. It was myself and one other waitress, because it being between 11 and 3 in the morning, barely anybody goes out or anything like that, except for when they had the munchies. And the other waitress had gone out for a cigarette break and everything. I basically just cleaning, refilling stuff, doing side stuff that we had to do to keep the thing going. I had walked into the kitchen, and I ended up being surrounded by the staff there and gang raped by a good 4 or 5 guys. So
that is insane that would happen. It's a movie.
Yeah. It happens way more than you think, too.
They're Mark, as a man, honestly, that somebody could actually do that, to me is just, it boggles my mind. It really does.
And
I'm so sorry,
You
Karen.
look angry, Jeff. Yeah.
It annoys me. It really does that. I'm going to get emotional. Sorry.
It's okay to be emotional.
And not only that, it's the staff. It came from the staff at the job.
That I would have thought that I should have trusted, being as young as I was or anything. I've learned to be picky about who I'm really open with and things like that, because I think, at least growing up, I probably put too much out there that a lot of people would know more about me than I was trying to whatever. But after that situation, I find out to be pregnant, get really depressed. I did have an abortion. It wasn't that whole situation. Yes.
From that, you got pregnant.
Yes. I had no idea. Well, not that I ever wanted to find out or anything, but no idea who could have been the father in the end. I've had no contact since I quit the job and everything. So
Thank you, Mark.
it's, it took a while to definitely open up about it and everything. Like I had talked to somebody, and she had to work me through it. My high school friend was the only one that really knew about it at the time because she came with me to get it done and everything. So it's like it went from only 2 people to 3 people to 5. Like I think I was probably dating my now wife for a handful of years before I actually opened up to her about it, because like she knew that there was something that I would be like about or whatever, but then had finally just completely, it's like, wow, you like I now know why you didn't tell me sooner, like things like that. So it's like I'm very iffy about who I open up to about things now. So
Yeah.
it's
But
like,
you're helping other women right now,
mhm.
Karen, because I've heard this story over and over and over again from all the college-age women that I teach. This is not an uncommon story of
Really?
rape, pregnancy.
In college, yeah.
Yeah, it is such trauma to women out there. And we live in New Jersey. It's a densely populated state. We have a lot of people in a small space. So we see a lot of things, and it's almost like pouring Miracle Grow sometimes on the bad out there. But a lot of women have Karen's story.
You're so courageous for saying this and putting it out there, and you will help people. You really will.
Definitely,
And
definitely.
it shouldn't happen. It's something that is terrible, and nobody should do such thing. It's not your fault, but I think that, I mean, your story could be something that could maybe save a life.
Mm-hmm. But it definitely, like all that situations, like how all of these things have been built up, like that really, I internalized it all. And that was my second or third attempt at myself. So yeah, because then between then and
What did
last
you
year,
do?
It's wild.
it was more or less what didn't I do. It's a shorter list of what I did not attempt, because like I had a friend who is also bipolar, and she had a history of overdosing, even unintentionally. So I've never gone near drugs, so I refused to do that. I had no way of an access to a gun, so I've never attempted that. I had history of cutting myself. There'd been a few times that I'd cut too deep and then just watch it bleed out and hope. I had definitely, it's more or less all of the self-infliction that, like I didn't, because I had failed at the insulin. I didn't try at my insulin again, but it was more or less knives were my thing at that time. So
Jeez. And that's such a, I don't want to
common,
say
I can't say
violent, but such a kind of painful way to go.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't imagine trust issues must be just, right? If you were in a room and there were men there, I can't imagine.
Yeah, talk about that.
It was definitely not easy or anything like that, especially because having to be at work, it happened, and then people moved on from what I can recall of being that this like 15 years ago, but it's like literally the event happened and they moved on and like went back to washing dishes or whatever, that like as if nothing happened, and I had to finish my shift, which was only a few hours later, with them right there and everything, just to go home and cry it out. Like it was the shock of it all and finish it. And then I was probably maybe working another week or so before I got the courage to quit. So
Wow.
Had to see them a couple more times.
And that's common for what you see in the colleges.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. People kind of dissociate out of their body. And that dissociation can last hours or days. And, from the stories I hear, people also question themselves, right? Did that happen? Was it my fault? That's the main theme. Was there something I did that caused this to happen to me? So there's a lot of self-blame that goes into it too. And then there's like the whole, who do I report this to? And will they believe me? And what will happen? It's not an easy thing to report. And sometimes, nothing gets done. I mean, you have to be willing to press charges and push that that story all the way through to the end. And a lot of women just want to move on, and they
Myself
don't want to
included.
have all that, you
Yeah.
know?
Do you think there's any solution through education early on for
Yes.
people?
Yes, I do. And these are the topics that we do not shy away from in my classes at Kane University. So first off, I teach something called the Safer Sex Workshop to every freshman that comes in. And we talk about these kinds of things, and also all of the sexually transmitted infections. They sometimes point at me on campus and say, "That lady ruined my life. Oh my God," right? But I teach the death class, and we go over suicide, and we talk about death as, sometimes people think death, because we play video games, is something that isn't real, or that we'll die and get up and start running again or something, and in the movies you get shot and you fall down, but then you get up and climb a ladder. That's not how it goes. You get shot, you're down, and you're likely to bleed out if no one comes to help you, and we talk about death as permanent. It's not temporary. Death is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. And I find, because I used to run the adolescent inpatient units, psychiatric inpatient units before I started teaching, if we can keep people alive till about 25, 26, something happens. I mean, we already know that the brain isn't fully developed until that age, but there's something that happens where all of a sudden people are like, I want to live, where they're more likely to try to kill themselves when they're younger than that age. All of a sudden it's like, okay, I want to live. And then we have a little respite from suicidal ideation until people are older. The people in this country that kill themselves more often than any other population are those 65 and older, and specifically 85 and older. Sometimes our elders saw a doctor an hour before they killed themselves.
Is that usually because they have something that might kill them, or disease? They figure they're going to die
disease,
anyway.
Or a
disease.
burden or anything
burden.
like that. Like they don't want to burden their family, being that they've lived so long.
I got an
and-
early stage dementia. I know I'm going to be a burden to my family.
Exactly.
That kind of thing.
There's that, but they
That's
also have
interesting.
something called bereavement overload, where their spouse might die or their friends might die, and they just don't have that network. And it used to be that we would all be living near our grandparents, right? And now we're not. Like Junior might be in California, Grandma might be in New Jersey. And so there's not that familial connection. And then, frankly, we talked about this last time. We have elders living in the woods in encampments because they can't afford rent. So they have to decide with their very limited income, Social Security income, am I going to buy food or am I going to pay rent? So we have a lot of issues with elders. But if we can keep people alive till about 25, 26, they tend to live.
Yeah. For anybody right now that's considering taking your life, and just like Dr. Bowe says, and I look at life as a revealing process. You could look at it like that. And you're low. It feels like nobody's around. You're lonely and it's terrible. I'm 43. Whether you have faith or not, doesn't matter. Just sticking it out, you just become mature through experiences too. And you become a little bit more comfortable with your skin. When I was 19, 20, I was a mess. But I was external. I was going out, drugs, partying, doing crazy things, but I was filling in a hole in my heart too. And I really, looking back, I did have some depression at times. I had the lonely ghost syndrome a little bit when I was walking around the mall, no one was around. And I felt like I wasn't going to get a girlfriend, things like that. It could be lonely, but I think that in time, you're meant for something much bigger. And you might, what if life is like a video game? You can get upgraded. If you're playing video games all the time and you're doing that anyway, there's no better game than life. So you might as well go out. If you're going to go out with at least trying to change your paradigm for the inside out. That could be another option instead of taking it right now. So
Love that. No better video game
there's
than
the
life.
light. It is, right? Mark, now that we're on this venture and we're doing our things, we could shatter a glass ceiling. We have a lane to leave a legacy now, dude. You know that. Behind the scenes, we're working out high-level people. So I'm going to Entree Leadership Conference next week to see Ken Coleman again. Ken, looking forward to seeing you. Hopefully John Gordon did speak to you, by the way. But yeah, I mean, life, it is a blessing, but it's not going to start out that way. And you weren't meant to be perfect.
Right, right. So what helped you? How are you still sitting with us?
I do have to say, finding that right person to speak to, because I mean, there are a lot of people seeing and talking to somebody, but that might not be the right fit. Like, unfortunately, I know that we don't really have the say of what insurances cover and what people, I mean, I can't choose what somebody wants to specialize in. Even if I get along with you, you don't really know what I'm going to be talking about or anything. So it might not be the right, like, psychologist or psychiatrist to see, or even a social worker of some sort, that it's like, there's just so much that kind of controls who I could have seen. But now, since I was able to like feel it out with different people or whatever, I do have to say the support group that I've built over the years has definitely been the best thing to happen for me.
That's great.
So,
Nice.
And where is that? That's something you formed with your network, or is that an organization?
all personally formed and everything.
personally formed.
Yes. I
Okay.
mean, some people have come, some people have gone. It's like grown and shrunk or whatever. Like, it's definitely adapted over time, but definitely comfortable where I am right now.
So people you can relate to and talk about openly.
Exactly. And
they'll
now
understand.
knowing that I can talk to openly, because there are the few that are in the group that I would have been like, wait, either they're too busy that I don't want to burden them, or that they might say something back to me, or like, yeah. So
No, that's great. How important do you think therapy is, Dr. Bowe?
Oh, I think therapy is really important. But if you can't see a therapist, Karen brings up such a good point about insurance. If you can't see a therapist, you can talk to a clergy person. You can go to a place that has charity care. In my area, the best charity care is at St. Peter's Hospital in New Brunswick. I'd rather see you alive than not here. So if you don't have insurance, that shouldn't be the obstacle. There is help out there. The 988 number, for instance, most of us have a phone. Even if you're homeless, a lot of people have a phone to connect to social services. 988 is a wealth of information, and they'll tell you exactly where to go. They'll put you in touch with someone you can talk to on the phone, and then that person can help refer you to where you might need to be. But we would rather hear your story, the good, the bad, the ugly. I would rather sit with you for hours than not have you here. So we have to find those connections and use them. And insurance should not be a barrier.
But
Yeah.
besides the fact that it's like, it's not really up to me personally, I guess from experience or anything, it's never up to me to decide how much somebody can take, because like, I guess, and my wife and I have been going through it at least recently, that like either I'll hold back on information because I don't want to burden her, or vice versa, or anything like that. It's like, it would be up to, I mean, especially like if you don't see somebody who is a professional, basically, because I know that like you have the clergy or a friend or a family member or anything like that. It's more or less up to that other person to decide of like, okay, so hold up, you might need to speak to somebody else about it, but it's not really like my choice of like, oh, I shouldn't burden Dr. Bowe with this because she may not be able to take it, or like whatever, because I don't know what somebody
There's
can.
a lot of assumptions out there. Right?
Unfor-
People assume, and
unfortunately.
where communication lacks, doubt fills in. It
For
does.
sure.
In a relationship, in business, in leadership, in
Mhm.
everything.
Like, but that shouldn't be the reason why somebody should hold back, is that like, I don't want to be too much, or I don't know if they can take it. So it's like,
Yeah, because people assume that I'm busy sometimes, and I'd rather them reach out to me to ask for help or to do something. Or, I just thought maybe you'd be busy, so I didn't. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. The first thing is family. Like, I want to serve family first. You're not telling me. I will put things on the back burner for that. So,
Hey, it's a story we tell ourselves to help us avoid that hard stuff. We tell ourselves a story so we can avoid doing the hard stuff.
that's
So
interesting.
you can always come to me, and you know that already. Rather see you alive. How are you going to handle the next time when there's a lot of stress or a lot of strife or things going on, because a year is not a very long time. How
No.
will we do it differently now?
I would say that all of my failed attempts have definitely played a pact, and then definitely since I've been talking about it a lot more often, that like seeing how I feel after even just my like in depth or writing it down, or because I do have a journal and everything, like it's different writing it than talking about it because I don't have a response, and I would rather have the response than just like going on a rant in a journal. But everybody has their own preferences. But at least currently, I would say that I would definitely at least not get to that point just anymore.
And do
So
you know when you're at that point?
it usually takes a while to build, but I can feel it coming on of like, unlike in my past with my seizures, I would never have an aura or anything like that. The seizures would just happen. Thank goodness I had brain surgery in 2018, so no more seizures. But it's just that fact of with that much depression or wanting to hurt myself, I have that impact feeling of like, do I really want to do this? Like, what makes me want to do this? And I can make up my list of decisions of why I would want to or shouldn't. So,
Hey, and a journal helps. Writing it down helps, even if you put it in the notes in your phone, because it gets it out of your body onto paper. It gets what's festering inside outside.
Yeah, there's
Which is
something
always
about
the-
making it intentional.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like a first step is to get it out of your body and then to
that-
tell someone.
and it makes you more aware of it. It's kind of like when I do a food diary or anything, writing it down makes it more aware of like, oh, I was feeling it this, or oh, I ate this, or instead of this today. Like it's more or less like that kind of comparison that like it feels more real when either in writing or talked about or anything like that. So,
You know, it's an interesting technique too, is to ask yourself questions. I don't know if you've ever done that. So like when you were feeling that way, oh, where was I?
mhm.
What did I say? Where did I go? And the questions that you ask yourself could be endlessly. Oh, I want to lose weight. All right, what was I doing to not do it? And you just you ask yourself specific questions to open up. And then when you hit that wall, you can't answer the questions, then you know that's what you need to work on.
That's a really good idea.
Mhm.
I just want to reiterate, too, that we don't know who we're sitting next to. So I grew up in a very chaotic home, a lot of violence in my home. My mother was 17 when she had me. She hid her pregnancy wearing girdles, layers on layers of girdles. To this day, everything I wear is really big. I don't like feeling squished, you know. Every day I heard, you shouldn't have been born. You know, my life would be so different because you shouldn't have been born. And so when I was 12, I too had this like narrative in my head about I shouldn't have been born. I ruined my mother's life, you know. And so I think we have to think about how we grew up, what the narratives are, what we're telling ourselves. What we tell ourselves is so powerful. And some people walk around with this negative narrative in their head that's very self-deprecating and very negative. And we have to shift that. There were times when I didn't want to be here. I believed the narrative that I shouldn't have been born. I didn't attempt to take my life, but there were times when I felt so hopeless and so helpless until I hit 15 and I created a countdown calendar until I could leave at 18. I knew on my 18th birthday I was leaving. I didn't know where I was going, but I was never going back. And I never did go back. I would see my parents, but I would stay in a hotel or I'd put them in a hotel or whatever. So we have to kind of develop a plan too, I think, for living. If things are so unbearable, you know, a countdown calendar, writing it down, telling someone is just super important, and not believing all the things we've heard about ourselves or the things we tell ourselves. I think that's super important.
That's amazing. You're amazing, Dr. Bowe. And it just goes to show what you can get out of and how people could succeed. Some of the, like Oprah Winfrey was very depressed, for example. Jim Carrey was going to commit suicide. There's many people. Justin Timberlake was really depressed and he was bullied quite a bit. So there are a lot of success stories too. So I think that is a matter of perception. You were saying stories before, and I think that is who we are. We tell stories about everything. When you want something, we're telling a story. That's what life is. It's a story. And if you looked at your life as a movie, what character in that movie are you if you're there and you had cameras watching you all the time? You know, are you a victim, or is it a drama? Is it a horror movie, or are you a hero? Sort of like Marvel comics. You could present yourself and put yourself in a position with, like, if you're into video games or movies, where you could just pretend you're in a movie and then be that hero and come out of it like Rocky.
I mean, based off of perception or anything like that, because I guess I can relate to that, because like just because I see myself some way doesn't mean that Dr. Bowe sees me that way, or you, Jeff, see me that way, or my wife sees me that way, or anything like that. So it's like, I guess that character of like maybe different stories are seen in different.
You mean when you're in front of different people?
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, you're somebody that could have been very bitter, and you could have really been, you could be mean to people, and you can not want to help.
I did want to turn off the world, but
I'm sure, but it doesn't matter. Where you're at now is what matters, as long as you're maintaining that and trying to build a foundation from that. And that's, you had to go through that prior, I think, to get to where you are, and also to appreciate it more. But yeah, I mean, there are exceptions, and that should not, I mean, it's amazing. I didn't know that quite about you. And it's
when the book was being written about my death class.
What's the name of the book?
It's called The Death Class, A True Story About Life.
Okay.
And it's written by Erica Hayasaki, who was a former LA Times journalist. Oh. She followed me around for a year, and she watched me pry and ask my students to tell their stories in class. The stories are extraordinary, you know? And then I felt like there's only so much I can do asking others to tell their story. I have to also be willing to tell my story, you know? I was brutally beaten as a kid. There was a lot of physical abuse, a lot of emotional abuse. But it's temporary. You're the captain of your own ship. You get to say what your life looks like. Nobody else. You know, nobody can tell you who you are. You can reinvent yourself time after time after time. If you don't like this version of yourself, let's create the next version of yourself. And the sky's the limit. You know, I look at Karen. She's getting her master's degree, right? She's helping me with the students in my class. They go to her, they text her, they ask her questions. I sat in her National Society for Leadership
and Success.
She was inaugurated into that, and now you're the
treasurer.
The treasurer of the organization. Nice. So if that isn't the epitome of saying, I want to live, and I'm going to do this big thing, you know, I'm going to be a leader, I'm going to be successful, I'm going to show others, you know, what I can do. She's in the middle now of, I'm not telling all the story.
It's okay.
I'm sorry, Karen.
I'm writing a cookbook for the Be the Change Pantry of because there's a lot of immigrants and everything that don't really know what to do with the Americanized food and everything. So it gets either overlooked and left behind and goes to waste. So the whole point of the cookbook was that I collected some recipes from the pantry users, and I'm incorporating like a lot of this unknown food that they might not really know what to use with into those recipes. So like if you don't have flour at home, you could use the oatmeal and grind it up and make flour that way, or like can swap out a zucchini for such and like this kind of veggie or things like that, that it's like change it up just a little bit so that like no food waste, no food insecurity, things like that, that like make things more known to people, that there's more than just one use for it.
I think that's great.
So. And then I'll have the cookbook, and I'll know how to make something Indonesian, or I'll know how to cook something from Haiti. You know, we have a lot of refugees coming in, and so now we're having a community cookbook.
You know what would be a nice add-on to something like that? Maybe having some actual hands-on training for somebody that is homeless and in the street. Like, all right, you can do this, but you know those little blenders that have the batteries in the bottom?
The Nutra
the Nutra batteries. You can, if they're in Starbucks or somebody is in a place where they could plug that in and charge it, and then teach somebody outside, hey, like you're outside, you have your backpack. What's in your backpack? Okay. Go to the store, get this, and that. Use a little I don't know if they could use something to burn up and cook a little bit, but like a little grill or something. But things like that, like a little mini blender. Oh, here's what you put in your shake and do it. To make it practical, but to make it like a home economics class, but outside.
Yeah,
Maybe
really cool.
because you could tell people how to do it, but will they put it in practice if they're out there?
Only
or will
because
they
we're having a cook-off
way?
at the end of my semester. So
There she is.
It's going to be great.
You know it.
But you know what? Bringing up our friends without addresses, Be the Change does so much with the homeless.
Yeah.
And I think when you're feeling down, when you feel like your life doesn't have any meaning, to look outside of ourselves at others, the homeless have given me so much inspiration.
count your blessings.
And I feel like if they can do it, why can't I? Of course I can do it. I have a painting in my office, a fish. And everybody's like, why do you have this weird fish painting in your office? Well, it was painted by a blind fisherman. He went blind. He took puff paint, and he can feel the outline of what he's doing to make the fish. And then his sister put the paints in a certain order, and he knows what the colors are, and he painted these. If a blind fisherman can paint fish, then maybe I can get through this thing that feels like the big obstacle in my way.
It's pretty amazing.
Maybe I can walk around the obstacle. Do we have to throw ourselves into every hole in the sidewalk? Or can we just take another street? Can we walk around the hole, right? So to look for inspiration, sometimes in places that you wouldn't even think, like with my friends who are homeless. Service work. You talked about this before, Jeff.
That's 100%.
Service work is grief work. Service work is depression work. Something outside of ourselves, something bigger than us. We're not the be-all and end-all. We're just part of a much larger community. And then when you're serving others, you're also like serving yourself. You're serving the other people around you. It's really great.
Yeah, and
to
it opens
use
up
that as therapy. That can be therapeutic.
Yeah, it fills the spirit, and it also, when you're in that environment, it makes other people comfortable knowing that you're in there for a good reason to help them. So they're more likely to open up. And when I had met Mark, another guy, Lorenzo, and then really the catalyst, when the spirit hit hard, was that with Daryl, who was homeless in a van. It's repurposed in the book. I really started having conversations with people that are homeless and amazed by their stories. I was more inspired by a lot of their stories than anything else, and their resilience and their faith.
Right.
Their faith was really deep, surprisingly, and I thought it was amazing.
And if you don't like working with people, go work with some animals.
Yeah,
like go volunteer
it's
to
true.
animal shelter,
I told you the last time, I think that should be mandatory. I think just like military draft, when you turn 18, you have to serve the community in a certain capacity and get credits.
Jeff for president.
It's true. I mean, it makes sense, because all the things that we're doing when we're focused just on ourselves and we're in our worlds making our money, we're looking up what we want to do, and it's all me. It's a hard knock life, and I'm going to do my thing. That means that everything around us isn't going to be maintained and taken care of, and it takes a village, and it takes exchanges and personal. I mean, I'm where I'm at, and if anything breaks, and this is a success completely, which we're aiming for, right, Mark? It's really because I've been humble and asked for help a lot. So I think having some compassion for yourself too, and forgiveness, because you're not designed to be perfect. That's not the way it is. So having a little bit of an understanding of that up front, and then some self-forgiveness. I did make a mistake. I did say this in this conversation.
An acknowledgement, right? And then an action plan, like some way you're going to change it. You're right. We all make mistakes. And what you were describing is something I call toxic individualism. I see it all around me. We're only out for ourselves. Well, the world doesn't work that way. You're missing a whole bunch of opportunity to find meaning and purpose in every day. But if you're only worried about yourself, you're going to miss all that.
Yeah, the network you have going up is the one going to be coming down. And it's really, those things are finite anyway. Money is going to go away. cars are going to go away. What we have to take with us is our relationships and what we've done to serve, really. And those are the memories that are the best anyway. You're not going to look at your 9 to 5, typing in a computer if you're going every day. Those aren't the memories. The memories are the time spent with family, vacations, but also connecting with people and serving them. There's nothing better. It's what the wave is. And the book is really trying to help people approach people on the street that they normally wouldn't because of the value with Mark and his friends. And just, it's really amazing.
And Karen's a big part of Be the Change too.
Yeah. I think you're a great story, and really your ability or your, the fact that you're expressing it is almost fearlessly is amazing. A lot of people wouldn't do something like that, but it makes you exceptional.
I've learned to use it as maybe not maybe a strength, but like how I can relate to others or anything like that, like what I've gone through. And because the not knowing of what everybody else has gone through, that it's more or less even more of a reason to talk about it. So,
yeah.
So Karen, how is it to be alive?
I mean, where I am in my semester right now, stressful, but I am very much okay with who I am now. Like where I am, I know where I want to be. So there's goals. Like I have short term and maybe not like where do you see yourself in 5 years, but like more than just day by day goals now.
Yeah,
so.
It doesn't mean challenges are going to go away when you find your purpose.
Mm-hmm.
It actually is the opposite. It kind of kicks up a little bit more, but that foundational attitude. I don't know. Are you someone of faith, or do you have anything that you rely on that's outside of yourself in that capacity, or are you just?
I mean, do I believe in a higher power? Yes. Is it anything related to specifically following something? No. But
okay.
like prayer, yes. Is there something that like just to get thoughts out?
Yeah, like a meditation.
Exactly.
There's definitely power in
Correct.
that too. Nice.
Well, I just want everyone to know a couple things too. We used to think that suicide completion was more men than women. And we know now that it's about 50-50. More women are completing suicide. So we used to think women would attempt more.
Try to face the mic a little bit more.
Oh.
Yeah, there you go. That's good.
We used to think that women would attempt more, but men would complete more. We're starting to see 50-50. Mm-hmm. We also kind of believe
complete. You mean
complete suicide?
50-50?
Yeah. More women are completing suicide now too.
Is it? I know men tend to be more violent, or in ways. Is that still? Because you said knife too. Has that changed? Or?
No, I mean firearms are a real problem in this country altogether, and we've already seen what happens when they get into the hands of teens or kids. Firearms are the number one way people are killing themselves.
Okay.
Quick and easy.
Yeah. We also sort of think like the people who talk about it aren't really going to do it. And that's a myth. If people are talking about it, it's because they're thinking about it. And it makes us uncomfortable. And so we sort of end the conversation. And we need to continue the conversation and talk more.
I think it needs to be taken much more seriously.
Much more
People
seriously.
need to jump on it like it is a
Yes.
urgent thing. If somebody even just hints to it in writing or anything else and verbally.
Right.
But that's one of the reasons why I would hold back is because either the situation or the topic would be changed right away, or somebody would shrug it off or anything like
Really?
whether I was actually looking for the help or just thinking of just like wanting to maybe not hint at it, but like if I really wanted to like dump my soul out or anything, there would always be that one person, that's why they're not in my mini circle, that it's like, well, okay, like, and I get it that it's like maybe they weren't prepared for it or anything like that, but it's really just like the shrugging it off made me want to act upon it even more kind of thing.
Yeah.
What would have helped them to say at that point?
One of those things of what I was saying before of like, well, hold up, maybe I'm not the person, I'm hearing you, I'm definitely hearing you, but maybe talk to so-and-so about it because they could probably handle it better than I can. Like at least acknowledge it, not go around it and like, or right into left field or something like that, completely change the topic or anything like that. Like we got to drop it right here. So.
And I would just say, hey, Karen, I love you. I don't want anything to happen to you. And let's call 988 together.
You read my
basically.
mind. Yeah.
You know, let's just call them together and let's just see. And if you need a ride somewhere, I'm here for you. Because some people aren't really comfortable. They don't see themselves as expert in anything, but anybody can say that. Anyone can.
Yeah, and how terrible the person feels if somebody expresses that and then shortly thereafter it takes their life.
Oh gosh, and you
And
live
that's
with
a whole
that
nother
guilt
trauma.
forever.
Right. It's not
The
worth
shoulda,
it.
coulda,
It's not
wouldas.
worth it. And you know that the whole thing back to walking on eggshells and things like that. When good people don't do anything, that's when everything becomes chaotic and it becomes right. When we're not standing up for each other and that love tough, you know, not tough love. There's a way to express that. And I go off with that. Like sometimes I go too far. I'm really trying to help and then I'm misdirected, maybe trying to push somebody a little bit too hard in self-development, something like that. That's happened to me, but I'm learning through some burns there. But I don't know. I think that as a collectively, we need to do it together because it's not going to come from professionals. It's not going to come from the government. And cleaning up the community and what you guys do at Be the Change New Jersey is amazing. And you do so much. Filling organizations like yours is what it's all about. And that chain expands. And then it comes from the people. This country was built on the people.
Right.
So that's who
It's
our responsibility, not just sitting around waiting for it.
Thank you.
I'm getting sick of it. Hold me back, Mark. Hold me back right now.
No.
I'm going after it. Come on, people, wake up.
Wake up. There's a story that just always has stayed with me. I show a film in one of my classes called The Bridge. It's about the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco, where people come from all over the world to kill themselves. It's like the number one location in the world people go to jump off the bridge. And there's this guy, Kevin. He's the only one that survived this jump from the bridge.
I heard about
and
that.
he talks about taking the ferry to the bridge, eating his last meal with Skittles, knowing what he was going to do. He climbs up to the location where he's going to jump. And in his mind, he says, if one person looks me in the eye and asks me how I am, I'm not going to jump. And then instead what he got was someone who said, will you take my photo? It was a tourist who wanted their photo taken at the bridge. So he takes the woman's photo and then like he's running a relay, he runs and hurdles right over the railing of the bridge. He jumps from the bridge.
Man.
And the minute his hands leave the rails, in his mind he says, I want to live. And that's just really stayed with me. I wonder how many people in that last second think, I want to live, but they're not going to. They're
So
going
final.
to die, right? So Kevin positions himself in some way where his feet hit the water first. He breaks every bone in his body,
It's amazing you survived.
but he lives. And now
crazy
he's a
fall.
motivational speaker.
Wow.
And he speaks everywhere about this. And I think it's a lesson for us all. Like we're hardwired in our brains to live. So I think about like people in that final second, those final seconds, what went through their mind, and now it's too late to reverse. Most things can be reversed as long as we're going to live. Death is final.
Yeah.
There's nothing temporary about it.
A lot of people think that they're going to be helping people because it's a burden of some sort, but they don't think of how the death will affect those people. Because it's like,
Right.
I've had that conversation with my wife and everything because these thoughts have been going back and forth or whatever. But it's like, how would I feel if you were gone? Or how would she feel if I was gone? Or even family or anything. I didn't mean to cut you off, Mark. I'm sorry or anything. But it was more or less like,
You're fine.
yeah, like those kind of things of like, yes, I have those thoughts, but then it's like, well, what if so-and-so or anything like that? So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. I was gonna say, since I've been in Morristown, there have been a few people that actually committed suicide in Morristown.
Friends of yours or just
Well,
acquaintances?
it was people that I've known. Like when I first came to Morristown, there was people that I've known since when I first came to Morristown, and a few years passed. But yeah, and there was a gentleman that, you know, I was associated with, that I've talked to, amongst the group of people that you see me talk to when we in town.
Yeah.
Like some of those people I've knew since I've been in Morristown since 2015. And there's a lot of those people have unfortunately gone away from us because of, one, homelessness. They had a lot of illnesses already going on with themselves and things like that. But there's one particular guy, he was a black guy, but you would never think, that he would off himself. You know what I'm saying? Like you look at this guy, he was athletic. He was going to the gym. He was a muscle-bound, fit guy. Mm-hmm. And when I talked to the guy, I never knew that he was that type of person who would, you know what I'm saying? And then when I heard it and I found out who it was, I'm like, holy crap, I knew this guy. Yeah, I knew this person. I talked to this person. I knew this person. If I would have known this, that, and the third, I would have sat him down and had a conversation with him and, you know what I'm saying, and tried to help him prevent. But it's like, because you have a conversation with somebody, you still never know, or you see this person not often, but enough to have a conversation with them and sit down with them, but you never know.
Yeah, no, you make good points. And I think that's why it's important for when we're out, be a little bit careful on how you address other people. If somebody's not giving you the best service and you're nasty to them, maybe it could be somebody that is considering suicide that day and just on their last day at work. Our interactions are so transactional. That's the problem. It's like, you're in customer service, so I'm just getting this and then I'm going. We don't look at the humanity sometimes in people. And I mean, like when we're out, I love talking to people. We love talking about Wave and being positive and encouraging people that I just talked to for the first time. And if you also the opposite, if you go up to somebody that's thinking about that and you just inject them with courage, because encouragement fuels the spirit. I know you know that, Dr. Bowe. It's a sword. It really is. You can look somebody in the eye, tell them you love them and encourage them, and you could see their eyes just light up while you're doing it. And it's something that everybody has, and it increases serotonin in the brain. When you smile, it does. So we're walking pharmacies. If you smile a lot, you could increase the serotonin in somebody's brain.
And dopamine too. You look someone in the eye and your pupils dilate and your brain gets flooded with neurotransmitter chemicals. So the other thing, I think we really have to lay it down, and I'm hoping all of you who are watching and listening to this, we have to stop saying, "How are you?" and accepting when someone says, "Fine." I've started to just say, "Tell me how you really are."
Now, do you think that's just a normal kind of greeting, like a hello? We have set up in culture.
But what? Let's here, I'm going to stop for a minute.
Like somebody's going to stop and start unloading problems?
Not even the problems. Just tell me how you're really doing.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
I've actually...
Don't shrug me off.
Yeah. I stopped saying fine. I'll say, "Oh, I'm hanging in."
Yeah.
Or "It's a good day today." Or, "Yeah, I'm having a bad day today." I'm trying to be a little more authentic with that answer, because your friend who killed themselves probably told someone beforehand that they were fine. And I think we need to go a little bit deeper, just a second more. Tell me how you're really doing.
I find myself saying that all the time. People are like, "How you doing?" "I'm okay. I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm all right."
My fine is different than your fine, though. So
But
that's a good point, though. Just a little mention of that's a little bit of a rough day, or without going in detail off the bat, because when you're with somebody, then you're presenting your actual feeling to them and what state you're in. And if that person has some social intelligence or knows it, you could then manage the conversation accordingly, knowing that person feels like that. So that's interesting.
Or maybe if I do it, someone else will do it too, and be a little more authentic. And so the person they know might actually dig a little deeper. So I'm trying not to use fine anymore, or "I'm good," or "I'm okay." I usually will be like, "Oh yeah, it's a good day today." Or, "Yeah, can't wait till Friday." Or
I think I'm going to do the same.
Yeah.
I'm taking that.
Yeah. I'm not going around saying I'm good when I'm not. I'll say I'm tired or, a lot on my mind today. Just a little something that's real and hoping that other people will do it too.
I like that. It's authentic. What do you think that would have helped you?
What, instead of just saying fine or
Yeah,
anything
if you were
like
just
that?
saying, if you were just expressed the quick, here's how I am, and then somebody started asking and probing.
I think it definitely would have come out differently or anything, or maybe my after attempts would not have happened if somebody did it early on, or who knows what. But it's like, I guess maybe because all I did was maybe not fine, but like, oh, I'm okay for now, or like things like that, like the short brief, like don't worry about it, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, because life is an ebb and flow. It's a series of being on track and being off track.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that having an acceptance first of that you're going to be off track, realizing that failures, or however you perceive that, is going to be a part of the journey, and then trying the best you can to build that foundation to be able to weather that storm through whatever it is. Some people use faith, some people use workbook, journal, like anything like that. But I think that when you're doing nothing and just receiving information and what everybody's programming, but I think everybody has the ability to program themselves by reading, just like you were talking about food and the processed foods and things that's there, teaching people health. You could also feed your mind with positivity, and you could filter the things that you watch and read, even in the morning, if it's a certain amount of hours, just having some conscious filtering of what you're taking in. Otherwise, you're walking around and just the stuff that's out there and the things that like kids on TikTok, and it's like hedonistic completely. It's getting out of control with all that.
So out of control.
Yeah.
So out of control. I think we all just need like a social media cleanse,
Yeah.
And listen, we're going into some hard days ahead. We have the election tomorrow.
Yeah.
The country's in an uproar. The world is on fire. There's a lot to be sort of scared about, anxious about. And if we're not feeling anxious, the person next to us is. And, we're magnetic fields of energy.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be feeling what other people are feeling. I think we just need to maybe turn off some of this. No matter what, tomorrow the sun's going to be up. I wish it would rain, but the sun will be up.
Yeah, we do need rain. It's been a while.
Yeah. And we just have to put one foot in front of the other and just check on each other. Are you okay? Yeah. What can we do for our neighbors? Worried about my elders in my neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
What can I help them with? What do you need, Mark, today? Just
right.
What can we do for each other?
Checking on people that you see that might be having a hard time. Just asking, hey, just curious. I'm Jeff. Just wanted to know how you're doing today and introduce myself.
Right.
Something so small. And then you give a little encouragement. That's your gift. You don't even have to give money. CJ, when we had that encounter with CJ, and I realized that was a crazy one for me, that episode the next day, because I realized it works and I didn't sleep. I was all over the place. That right there, I forgot where I was going with that. I lost my train of thought.
You said money.
It's more the action than the money or anything. Like it doesn't have to be money.
Because he helped me out, I knew he was going into a second job interview, and I wrote him a nice letter of recommendation, went to the library on Wave's letterhead because he was giving me ideas and he was going to be on the show. So he collaborated, and I wrote him a nice letter of recommendation, something like that. So it doesn't have to be money per se. Your gift could be encouragement.
Yeah.
Just loving on somebody.
And a letter of recommendation is just giving someone a leg up. That's just really
Anything
helpful.
you can do.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
There's just so many, just in line sometimes, like, I wish people would just talk to each other, just like human beings, and not walk by. Like when I'm on a trail walking, there's some people, oh, hi, but I can't stand when somebody walks by and doesn't look over or say anything. It's like my pet peeve a little bit. I don't get offended by it, but how could you not acknowledge another human being that's walking next to you?
Thank you. How can you not acknowledge another human being?
It's so weird.
See it all day long.
Yeah.
Even when you're just trying to switch from one lane to the next and nobody lets you in, or they see that your signal's on and so they speed up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you can't get in. That's not acknowledging another human being. We forget the human part of being, I think.
Some empathy.
Humanity.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything else you want to share just about your story today? And also, if you wanted to come back and expand on it more or anything like that, you're more than welcome, Karen. But
I could. I mean,
is there anything that you think people should hear?
As dark as the time is, because I know I've been there, it might seem like the answer right then and there, but it is definitely not the best, because like how I was saying of who it affects after, like who will miss you, like there will be plenty of people that need you in the life. So it's like, yes, right then and there, it seems to be the best choice, or like just end it all or anything like that. But it's that after that, like if you did go through with it and successful, how the rest of the world would probably not be able to go, well, not that it wouldn't go on, but how many people would be affected in the end.
Yeah,
So,
how many people would it hurt? And then,
Exactly.
And then, it could put people in their whole life wondering, oh, what could I have
what
done?
could I have done? The guilt, the whatever,
guilt, that
that
could
like
be a
there's that
lifelong
ripple
thing.
effect or anything like that. Like you do something to you, who gets hurt in the end. So.
Yeah. And how about you, Dr. Bowe? Anything final to tell the audience if you had to wrap it? Unless you want a minute, me and Mark could talk real quick. If you need to clear your throat. It's fine.
Like I have
Need
a
a
tickle in
cocktail?
my throat. What's that about?
No, it's okay. Just
It gets better. It really does. Putting one foot in front of the other, taking one day at a time. I mean, we've heard that, over and over again. It's really true. Looking at things in small little pieces rather than the big whole picture. You might not have a job today, but you put one foot in front of the other. You meet someone like Jeff who will write you a recommendation letter. You try to, talk to people in your network. One bad day doesn't have to mean your whole life is bad. It's one bad day. And you don't want to utilize a permanent solution for a temporary problem. Things do change. I've changed, I don't even know how many times. And you will find meaning and purpose. That's the big goal, to find meaning and purpose in life. And to bring others with you when you find something that gives you meaning and purpose. If you had told the 12-year-old me who was hearing every day you should never have been born and believing it, if you had told me then that I would go on to put myself through nursing school. I worked as a lifeguard to do that, and I paid for it myself. And then I went on and I, worked in the emergency room. I worked in the ICU. I did psychiatry. And then I had this big break in teaching. And then I became a professor. And then, things change and our lives shift in many, many ways. I have 2 incredible daughters. I have a husband who's wonderful, who's a therapist, which is really good for me that I have a therapist for a husband. But it's life goes on, and life is beautiful.
Yeah. No, I love that. And thank you both so much for being on. And Be the Change New Jersey, www.bethenj.org. Stop with all the Amazon while you're complaining about having no money, and give to a really great cause and great director who really has the best interest of the community, and somebody that is doing so many different things. It's really, really amazing, the heart of Dr. Bowe. So we love you. You guys have an open, it goes without saying, you have an open seat to talk about anything that you have going on, or any subjects like this if you wanted to bring a student in, because and also go to the bottom of www.ridethewave.org. There's a guest request link. You could fill out a guest request if you want to come on the show and share your story as well, because everybody could, one, expressing it, there's something to it, there's an energy to it, and also somebody can learn from it. Do you guys have any Facebook? Karen, first, do you have any Facebook and also if you want to give any contact information, if anybody had any questions for you or wanted to reach out, do you want to?
I could definitely share that, yes.
All right, go right ahead.
My Instagram is _ first name KAREN _ last name HAAS _. So,
okay, so they could direct message you there.
Exactly. So _ Karen _ Haas _ is me, yes. So.
Okay. And Dr. Bowe, any other?
I'm Norma Bowe, all one word, on Instagram. And I think it's the same for Facebook, but I'm also nbowe@kean.edu. And I take questions all the time
Yeah.
through my email. We have some really big projects coming up in Be the Change. We're going to be delivering and distributing food to about 200 families on November 23rd at 323 North 4th Avenue in Highland Park. If anybody wants to come, I know Karen will be there and her family, to distribute to food insecure families. We're going to have Thanksgiving with all the trimmings for that.
I'd like to be a part of that.
Oh, please
Ride
come.
the Wave would like to
Love that. We'd love
come
to
there
have
again.
you.
And then,
Yeah.
such a great little, there were definitely some
Partnership.
lessons learned. Yeah, the unity for the community. But yeah, would love to,
Oh,
anything
it's
we can
wonderful.
do.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. I know this was a pretty intense subject, but yeah, it's important. It's important that we stick together and that we love each other. And if you're somebody that's feeling like you're suicidal, please reach out to
988.
And we appreciate you guys. Have a great day, great night. Thank you so much for joining us. Take care.
Thank you.
Till next time.
Thank you for tuning in to Ride the Wave. It's been a pleasure having you with us as we explore ways to make a positive impact together. Remember, every little wave creates a ripple of change. We appreciate any support you can provide as we plan to build an all-inclusive, modern campus and empower communities. For details on how you can contribute through various platforms, please visit us at ridethewave.org. Until next time, keep riding the wave of change with us. I'm Jeff Fisher, signing off, but the journey continues.